Hello and welcome back to another episode of Not a Road Runner. We're really collecting a load of episodes now. So this is the third part of the gauges video. So we have a coolant temperature sensor installed today. So I'm hoping it'll be nice and easy and we're not going to have to spill loads of coolant everywhere. It shouldn't be too bad. But I also, you know, the weather's starting to get better, so I want to take the Plymouth out and all of the parts and stuff that are in it at the moment. Don't really know why that stopped. So, yeah, all the parts and stuff that are in the footwell at the moment are making it really hard to take it anywhere. So I want to get this finished so that then I can take it out and enjoy it, you know, while the sun is out. So, let's get to it. Okay, so I've done quite a bit of research and I think that down there, that little plug you can see there, that is what we're going to take out and try and put our coolant temperature sensor in it. And hopefully that works. And this is what we're going to be putting in instead, hopefully. So as you can see here, I tried everything. I had to have tons of extensions on it because it is so congested down there. I tried sockets, I tried spanners, I tried wrenches, I tried my impact. I even bought a specific 3/8 inch square bit, which actually is supposed to be for oil drain plugs, but even that could not get this to budge. So this video was actually filmed over multiple days. So that day I decided to soak it in WD-40 to try and loosen it up a bit. So we decided to run the wiring while we were waiting for the penetrant to soak. So I used the pen to make sure that it wasn't pulling through the gauge, and then just run the wire up over the steering column, through the grommet, along the firewall, along the engine, and then to the location that I showed you at the start. It's always a good idea to leave yourself plenty of room and not to cut it too short, because we're going to see one of those massive reasons later on in the video. But either way, it's always a good rule of thumb because you don't want it too short, because otherwise you have to run it all over again.
3 hours later.
So with the wiring to the sensor complete, I decided to come back into the cockpit and sort out the wiring to the back of the gauge. The Smith's classic gauges actually only need 3 wires, or technically 2. One is from the sensor out, one is power in. This one does need a voltage regulator though, so definitely be aware of that. And the third one, which I did, is an earth from there to the plate. Technically that's not necessary, as the holder should earth it, but it's always good to have a nice clean earth. So with this, we've got one end going to the plate, which is mounted at the top, which everything is earthed to. And then at the bottom, we're going to join the bulb earth and the earth that we're going to loop over the back of the gauge. If you're interested on how I ran power to the gauges and how I'm earthing everything, check out the oil pressure video, because I explain it all in depth in that episode. In order to earth the gauge, I am just using the nuts that were supplied to mount the bracket at the back to stop the gauge from moving. I'm going to earth that because obviously they're all connected. And with all of that installed and the earth installed, we can see we have power and a good earth.
1 week later.
Okay, so let me just talk you through what's going on. So, that bolt down there, so that one has been absolutely horrific to try and get out. And plan B, because basically I bought a bit and it has just chewed up the hole rather than actually like moving it. It's so ground in and rusted in that it's just not moving. So we're gonna change over for a cut and then slot the hose onto it and fit the fitting in the upper radiator hose. It's not as good because obviously the thermostat has to open for you to then know the temperature, but then if the sensor never picks up anything, then you know that the thermostat's failed. So I suppose you can know that way. And then obviously once the thermostat opens, then it will flow through and then you'll be able to read the temperature. So it's not ideal, but the other one just is impossible to get out. It just will not come out. So this is the best of two options. So let's get to it. Thinking about going for it right in there, because it will push it up slightly but shouldn't kink the hose or anything. Maybe there, we'll see. So the first part of this install was removing the upper radiator hose from the radiator, because you always should check that your hose joiner is the right diameter before you start cutting. So we're going to remove the cable tie and the shielding, which I think is to prevent the upper radiator hose rubbing on the main pulley belt. So the install of this is actually pretty simple. You just make sure you know where you want it, cut your hose, and then trim out the center section enough that it doesn't kink the hose and you have enough room for your joiner in the middle. So as you can see, I've trimmed quite a lot off, but that's because now when I fit it, it's a bit big, which is slightly concerning. There's no kink in this side, so that's what we want. Time to get it bolted up. I decided to install the temperature sensor before I put it in the car, but you'll see later on that actually I forgot a pretty important part, so I'll run over that in detail when I actually install it, but it's to do with earthing, so definitely do not miss that step. When tightening your Jubilee clamps, definitely make sure that the lower of the two is as tight as physically possible, because the top one is very, very unlikely to leak, but the bottom one, as that is in the direction of flow, is very, very likely to leak, as you'll see in a minute. Maybe I'll paint these black, hide them off a bit, or at least trim that off. But yeah, so looking pretty sweet. Now we've just got to do this cable and then we're good. So this right here is the reason why I said leaving a big amount of slack on your cable is a great idea, because obviously if I'd have cut it too short, we definitely wouldn't have been able to make this cable fit to the radiator hose location. So as you can see, we've had a spurt. See if it does it again. So the earthing issue I overlooked was the earthing of the sensor itself. when you mount the sensor in your engine block or in the intake manifold, you don't have to worry about that because the whole block is earthed. But when you are installing it in a suspended rubber hose, you have to earth the sensor, otherwise it can't work. And that concludes today's episode, guys. So it was a bit harder than we were expecting, really. I was hoping I could just pull the plug out, shove the new one in, and then we'd be golden. So it's a bit different than what I was expecting. I mean, sometimes I think those can look really, really bad, but I bought the CNC machine one. It's round. I hate when they're like that weird triangle shape, because I just think it just looks stupid with a round hose and a triangle shaped connector. So, you know, I hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. Hopefully you can get your plug out if you're attempting this yourself, but if you can't, then this is an alternative. We're going to take it for a run, make sure the sensor is actually working, because it didn't move, but obviously we're just sitting on the driveway, so it's probably not going to move. Just sitting here for, I don't know, 2-3 minutes while I've been running it, checking for leaks. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, guys. Please like, subscribe and share, and I will see you in the next episode. Cheers, guys.